Oh, good morning. We will see what happens. Good morning, Mike and Arlene, our Philippine journey, live from Angeles City, Philippines. I can't help but think that there would be some interest in what's going on in the world and how it impacts our lives on both a daily and a long term situation. But we'll have to wait and see if anybody even shows up for the live stream. Most of our audience is simply going to be uh, people that are more interested in the Philippines in general, not just what's happening otherwise. So let's see here. Pablo is here. Good morning, Pablo. How are you? Thank you for dropping in. Rob Sells Mexico. Hello from Playa del Carmen. Oh, what a beautiful area. Brooks Rick. Good morning. How are you? I can't believe I actually have people that show up for this live stream. It strikes me as different. It really and truly does. But I do believe that our viewers, our subscribers, are such a well-rounded and and informed group of people that I should get some various comments, and that's something I want you to be aware of. I don't profess to know a lot of this. All right. I'm guessing in the dark on some of the world events and it's their implications. But I am counting on you, the subscribers and viewers, to chime in, to comment in, to tell us your opinion. So we'll wait just a little bit, see if we build up anything in the room, and then we'll go. Good morning, Slick Rick. How's it going? Thanks for dropping in from San Francisco. Heath McDaniels from Southeast Tennessee. People saying hello to everybody. That's always good and fun. So, so yeah, I do believe that we should be cognizant or aware of or understanding of what's happening in the Middle East and how it's going to impact us, how it might already be impacting us, and what we think is going to happen next. I mean, are we going to send it? Is there going to be a ground invasion? What are the objectives? Why would America become the world's policeman? What's going on? What your thoughts about all of this are? And quite frankly, part of my question behind this is why we're seeing these gas prices in the United States doing what they're doing. Um, it doesn't. The United States doesn't really have or isn't really impacted by the embargo and the oil coming out of Iran because we don't use it. We use very little of it. In fact, it doesn't cost the oil companies to produce a barrel of gas or a barrel of oil hardly anything more than it did 6 months ago. But they're sure getting paid a lot more for it. So, that's one thing, I guess. Oscar Mike, nice day in Las Vegas. Well, I bet it was a nice day there. Rob Sells, live in Las Vegas, spend 2 weeks per month in Playa Maya, in the Riviera Maya, Mexico. Yeah, beautiful area. Beautiful area. Congratulations on the weight loss. Well, thank you, Rob. You know, it's a slow, arduous process. Um, we'll see what happens. Um, we'll just have to wait and see. Mike, I didn't get a notification today for the live. You know what? That could be for two reasons. First off, I didn't post it. Um, I don't think I posted it correctly when I set it up in advance. I noticed right before I went live that it said I had an hour and some odd minutes left before I was supposed to go live. So I must have scheduled it on the interface for 7 a.m. rather than 6. So that probably what it is what it is. But who knows? But I make mistakes, that's for sure. Mike didn't get notification. Yep, got that. In San Francisco, there's a gas station selling gas for $7.15 cents. Slick Ricardo can verify this, no doubt, man. Yeah, but it doesn't cost. It still doesn't cost any more. It's not like we're buying oil from the Middle East. Why is it so expensive? But that's only one part of it. That's only one part of the entire uh, um, equation here. You know, McLovin. Good morning, McLovin. Are you back from Subic now? I can't tell. You got videos coming out of Subic, a live coming out of Subic. Then next thing I know, you're on Walking Street, showing the damage at Baccara. Um, so I don't know. I guess you're back. I hope you're back. I hope you're doing fine either way. Slickwick, Pablo, it's true. It seems to be the average premium unleaded. Yeah. Thumbs up. Heath McDaniel. Much easier to gain the weight than it is to be working on taking weight off from no smoking since. Yeah, that's for sure, Heath. Um, um, so Pablo says he got notification of the live event. So, anyways, should we be doing what we're doing in the Middle East? How does it impact us as anybody? Whether we're expats, whether we're not expats, whether we're in the Philippines or Thailand or still in our home country, um, how is it impacting us? And what is the future of it? How's it going to impact us? Were we right? Are we right to be doing what we're doing? That blockade is causing a tremendous amount of real grief for the European Union countries, all right, and for other countries. It's causing far more grief. What's our dog in this pony show? What's going on? I want to know what the people think. You know, um, I think that's important that we see from various points of view. Premium gas in Grand Island, Nebraska, $3.29. Wow, that's cheap. Jeez. McLovin says, "Yep, staying at the Madison Crown." Oh, so I guess Ugly Tourist visited you the other day. Must have. That's why he was doing his video on the Madison Crown. Very nice. It's a nice place. We stayed at the Lewis Grand back when it was actually the Lewis Grand and it was open. So, but I heard they've done a really great job with it. Brooks Rick, Wow, I wish I could pay that. So Pablo says his groceries in Fremont, California, are a little pricier, but I don't drive, so Gudinson doesn't bother me. You know, um, that is something to really bear in mind. I mean, when we talk about world events, you take a look at the Ukraine. You take a look at what's going on right now with fuel. But like Ukraine, the Ukraine and that surrounding area, not just the Ukraine, but that surrounding area, they're the breadbasket of the European Union. Just like America has its breadbasket, but food safety, um, you know, being able to continue. I saw a really good article yesterday about how Thai and Cambodian rice farmers, and which Thailand and Cambodia are the two of the very largest exporters of rice, Vietnam as well. But this particular, they were interviewing these Thai and Cambodian rice farmers about the fact that they're going to cut back. And how is that going to impact? I mean, a lot of countries do not have the ability to feed themselves completely. They could get by with it, but when you put together the total formula between protein, vegetables, and um, uh, proteins, vegetables, and flour, wheat, stuff like that, grains. I'm sorry, that was the word I was looking for. Grains. When you put all of that together, very few countries actually have the ability to supply that for their nation. I mean, the Philippines, just by themselves, import. And you would think, as important as rice is in the Philippines, the Philippines import hundreds of millions of tons of rice annually. So that really, should, just that alone, you should take a look at it. Cattle farmers in America are reducing their herds, um, just because they're, they want to get, the rich are getting richer, and that is not a lie. Gasoline doesn't bother me. Yeah, gasoline may not. For a lot of people it doesn't, but for some people it does. Sir Ghost, good morning. How are you? Um, Speaking of world events, Mike, what's the latest on China trying to claim parts of the southern Philippine shoals as their own? Well, that's been going on for quite a while, Rick. So there used to be the nine dash line, and then the Chinese then moved it up, different, but they pretty much claim what they consider, the Philippines calls the West Philippine Sea, the WPS, and the Chinese call it the South China Sea. And they pretty much say that that ocean is territorially theirs, and they lay claim to it, um, all the way back. And it extends from the shores of mainland China, occupies parts of different countries, including the coastline of the Philippines. And that's just all there is to it. The Chinese, although they are a the Chinese are not part of UNCLOS, UNCLOS, which is the international, and I think that's something we should speak about. All of these international associations, these international jurisdiction, international this, international that. These people have absolutely no power whatsoever to enforce anything that they've come to agree on or not agree on. Um, you know, that's just the way it is. That's just like the WHO. All right, the World Health Organization has no power to enforce anything. That's just like the Hague has no real power to enforce anything. That's just like the ICC, the International Crime Commission, whatever it is. They have no power. I mean, these are, the United Nations has no power to control a damn thing. These international organizations, even though associated with and created by countries that are all in agreement with each other, they don't mean shit. They really don't. So Ghost is doing well. McLovin, I think if President Carter or the rest of the presidents before 47 would have handled the Iran problem, but I really think it was Carter's mistake. I think it goes back, Iran goes back for 47 years. It is ruled by, or was until 2 weeks ago. Until 2 weeks ago, Iran was ruled and run by the clerics, by the radical Islamic uh, clerics. And even now, the IRGC has now pushed the clerics out of the way. So you have religious fanaticism that has vocally called for death to America, death to all infidels, death to all non-Islamists, death to all of them that don't abide by their religious views, all right, that don't claim 100% to be Islam, all right, death to everybody. And they've been ruled for 47 years. So it goes way back. And will it get fixed? I got no idea. I mean, it's just like you have radical Christians, you have radical Islamists, all right? And that's a big deal. It really and truly is. In order for anything to have any long-term effect in Iran, regime change is going to have to happen. And the only way regime change is going to happen is going to be if the people will rise up. And you got to think about it. There's 90 million Iranians, but only 4 million of them are a part of the IRGC. So it's quite possible. I think that Trump, he made his views very clear. No nuclear bombs for Iran. He didn't give a shit about who rules Iran, doesn't give a shit about what they do with their oil, doesn't give a shit about any of that or their religion. It wasn't anti-religious. It was no nuclear bombs. And that's his agenda. And that's pretty much held true so far all the way across. We haven't been bombing population centers. Now, population centers, but has there been collateral damage? Well, yeah, there has. There always does in any kind of conflict. It's always going to be there. Gasoline doesn't bother me because I don't drive. There you go, Pablo. I don't drive, but my wife does. Okay? So the price of fuel, it doesn't bother me greatly. I consider it more of a hindrance for my daughter. She's on a much tighter budget. But she lives in the U.S. But, I mean, the cost of diesel here is what it is. And we don't drive that darn much to have to worry about it. But to transport perishable goods, to get chickens from the field to the slaughter, from the slaughter to the markets, that takes fuel. To get vegetables from the field to the warehouses, from the warehouses to the market, that takes fuel. All right. To get rice from the field to the market, and from the market from to the to get rice processed, to harvest it and get it out for sale, it takes fuel. Um, whether it's harvested by machine or harvested by carabao, it doesn't matter, because you had to buy feed for that carabao. You can't just, not everything is within walking distance or available in a walking situation. Not everything. I mean, sure, you could get away with it if you had one carabao. I guess you could walk up the road, buy a big, an 80-pound sack of feed or whatever, and then walk and carry it back. But in the big scheme of things, it just doesn't work like that. You know, everything at the mall, everything at the store, everything at the markets, all had to be transported there. So that's one big deal. But is it going to get to a point where there are other issues? Okay. I was talking to a buddy of mine the other day. Okay. Now, there are certain radionuclide isotopes that we inject in people when we do, say, PET scans and nuclear medicine scans. They have to be utilized. I mean, they have to be created. And the creation of those, in some of those instances, that stuff does too. I mean, so there's all kinds of issues here. Tim Deziak, good morning. How are you doing? Pablo, you think now China would go after Taiwan, but then again, China got lots of oil from Iran. Yes, yes. The embargo, all right, the blockade of the Hormuz Strait has had a serious implication between that and Venezuela. All right, Venezuela had a pipeline to China of oil, and that has changed. And then in turn, now the Strait of Hormuz, while it hasn't been 100% as the press would lead us to believe, it has been significant, significant. So, they're looking and biting, and they're waiting to see just how aggressive the players are going to be. I don't think they want to try and second guess Trump. I really don't. They need oil to fight. Yeah. The Iranian people need to be armed. Yes, Pablo, they absolutely do need to be armed. And there's been a big controversy over that. There were a ton of, although nobody will admit where it came from, whether it's CIA, Mossad, underground resources, whatever, were shipping small arms through the Kurds. The Kurds stole a lot of them. And Trump actually made reference to that earlier or later yesterday, early this morning, about how they're going to make changes when it comes to that. But yeah, the Iranian people need to be armed. And if you think for a minute they're not getting armed, I mean, keep in mind, when it comes to war, when it comes to conflict, nobody's putting all of their cards on the table. Everyone involved is lying, misrepresenting, deceiving. They're putting out, deceptive information to mislead other people. It's happening. Will it be enough? That's the big deal. You know, that's the big deal, Pablo. But yeah, I agree. Philly in the Philippines. Good morning, Brian. How are you? How's things back in Surigao? Got a little bit of a termite problem, I understand. The Philippines is any tropical region is a haven for termites. Um, and that is just all there is to it. I'm not saying that you can't, be proactive and everything else, and you will find certain places certain people are. All right, but as a general rule, not so much. Not so much. Gas prices have limited recreational travel. You know what, Tim? That's probably true. Um, that is probably very true. Um, I don't know how important recreational travel is. I do think it's important for people to enjoy their lives. Oh, I thought I dribbled on myself. All right. So yeah, I do realize that. Pablo saying hello to Philly. Dave, big Dave. How you doing, Dave? Top of the morning to you too. Thank you so much. So, when we look at the Middle East, um, other than the impact of fuel prices going up in the West, all right, I would really love to hear from people in the UK and from people in Europe what they think about it. I mean, yesterday was the May Day protests. And if you've seen the news this morning about the May Day protests, even in Manila, all right, if we want to refer to the Philippines, but in the EU and in the UK, these protests were very anti American, anti Israel, or at least that's what the news showed. I guess nobody's going to show the other stuff, if indeed it was even there. But certainly, right now, the EU is not looking very favorable at the United States and Israel. And personally, I think that's just a sad situation. I really do. Even in Florida, we have to keep treating them to keep the termites. Yeah, Florida's another. Yeah, it's an almost tropical environment. Bruce is absolutely correct. Sup, D Web, good to see you. Yeah, so I mean, when we look at the EU, I mean, Trump is talking about pulling a ton of troops out of Germany, shutting down his NATO bases, and that's a lot of rhetoric. I mean, the United States has a lease in Rota, Spain. And Trump is saying he wants to pull out of Spain. They pissed him off. Spain and Italy, and even France, pissed him off, and wants to pull the U.S. bases out. We'd still be obligated to pay those leases. So I mean, you got to take it with a grain of salt sometimes. Um, you've got to, there's an obligation there, but at the same time, um, the United States funds something like 65 or 75% of NATO's entire budget. So if that's the case, we should be getting some sort of a better. I mean, I think NATO is a bit outdated. I really and truly do. I think that NATO is outdated. The UK, Britain, England, whatever you want to. All right, it has so screwed up its own country that I think NATO needs to look at it and say, you know what? Times have changed. Things have changed. All right. We need to look at doing things differently. And I'm not saying abandon them at all. Okay. But what I am saying is that NATO, just like any business, if you went to a McDonald's in the 60s, hamburger, cheeseburger, french fries. All right. Now you go, there's 50 things on the menu. Well, they evolved. And NATO should evolve as well. It really should. Tim says there were protests in Manila. Yeah, there definitely were. There definitely were. It made the news, it's been on the news. It's in the Inquirer, it's in the Philippines, all the Philippines news. He says that protesting getting out of hand, teachers taking kids, having them make signs at school projects kind of pisses off. Yeah, Heath, I don't think that children should be raised in a vacuum, but I don't think that they should be influenced one way or the other than what their parents want them to be influenced as. Um, I think the U.S. public school system and even some of the private school systems are very biased. I mean, yeah, I'm an American and I love America and I'm very, very conscious of America, but it has significant problems. It really and truly does. We should pay only 5% of our GDP towards NATO. I don't know, Pablo. Should we pay anything to NATO? Shouldn't they pay? I mean, shouldn't what we do, should we get out of NATO and just have mutual defense treaties with select countries that are looking in the same direction we are in, countries that agree with our philosophy. I'm not saying our philosophy is correct, but you know, isn't that something we should at least think about? Slick, McLovin, everyone needs to pay their fair share, not the U.S. footing. Yeah, again, if you're going to be in an agreement, if you're going to be, you know, in that situation, you should own up to your obligations and pay it. But now you're seeing socialists and communists and everything else, and Spain and Italy are exactly appropriate examples of that. Even the UK. I mean, the UK, which I mean, they're great people. All right, it's just wrong. It's wrong if they're not going to pay their fair share. Um, you know, do we shouldn't need, and America should not be the world's policeman. What we should be is the biggest guy on the block, so we don't have to rely on having bases all over the world. We should be able to hit everything and do everything we need to do from our shores, really and truly. And times have changed, and that's quite possible. Bruce, people are so damn short sighted they would rather let Iran have nukes sent to them in a decade than to pay a bit more for gas short term to guarantee long term safety, not that safety that the USA is providing. And that's a very valid statement, Bruce. I agree. I agree 100%. NATO not around Trump's operations. Yeah, he's not a big fan of it. These countries should pay us for protection like Korea. If we pulled out of Korea, I'd give them 6 months before Junior of North Dakota. You know, I'd give him 6 months before he'd attempt it. But quite frankly, I don't think North Korea. I don't think North Korea in a modern, um, um, other than using nuclear weapons, I don't think North Korea in a modern war could stand much of a chance. I really and truly. I mean, these people were eating tree bark 10 years ago during the famine. In fact, they're always constantly in a famine. Um, and, you know, I'm just not impressed with North Korea, to be honest with you, McLovin. Now, they got ballistic missiles. Absolutely. Could they cause a lot of trouble? Without a doubt, they could. That's for sure. But could they fight a real war? Nah, I don't think so. Not, just not my opinion. But certainly I could be wrong. I could be desperately wrong. But I look at, you've got NATO. You've got this idiot Starmer. I mean, Starmer is a blithering idiot in the UK. Without a doubt, he's an idiot. Oh, wow, look. 36 minutes in, I got my first thumbs down. He's a little slow this morning. That's a shame. They also have, and McLovin says they also have ties with China. Yeah, they do. They do. They have ties with Russia. They sent 14,000 troops to the Russians to use as cannon fodder in the Ukraine. In fact, they have a 50% mortality rate in the Ukraine for North Koreans. All right, and Kim Jong Un, or what? Yeah, Jong Un was just did a statement about his heroic men who'd rather commit suicide in the fight in the Ukraine than be captured. Blah. Joe Pa, they're building a Dunkin' Donuts, an IHOP, and a Paris baguette right next to our house to go with all the other crap, all the other crap they just built. No recession here. You know what? Not to get off on a side rant, but sometimes that kind of stuff is all done for depreciation, write-offs, and everything else to reduce the profit of the companies. Even though you've got to admit, all right, has anybody done anything? I mean, no, let me rephrase that. Certainly everybody in this room has walked into a Dunkin' Donuts and wondered how the hell are they making money? I mean, some Dunkin' Donuts, they don't have any business long term. I mean, the margins may be high, but there's just not enough. Same thing with IHOP. All right. IHOP used to be trying to go to an IHOP on a Friday, on a Saturday in America, on a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning, you could have to wait in line. I've seen IHOPs. There's just no way these guys are. So, I mean, non-performance is not always a critical issue. Joe Ball, let's do spite super chats for the thumb down. You know what? The thumb downs, they're just what they are. All right. Nobody is going to agree all the time. Nobody's going to keep in mind all the time. Um, you know, I have, I look at the news, I read the news, and I go through and try and figure out. I mean, you've got this guy in London that just went around stabbing people that he felt were Jewish. You've got Starmer who's saying one thing and the party isn't doing shit. All right. You've got all kinds of stuff going on all over the world. You've got this crazy communist, socialist woman in, where is she? Italy, that wants to do this and that. I mean, there's so much ridiculousness in the world. It's crazy. So a thumbs down's the least of my worries. Trust me. Trust me. NATO is fundamentally a defensive alliance. Under Article 5, members are only obligated to act if a member state is attacked. Yes, they're only allowed to act, but it is supposedly, they're there supposedly at request. In other words, if a member is attacked and that member requests assistance, NATO is supposed to respond with assistance. So, you know, and Trump didn't ask NATO to do shit in Iran. All right, he didn't ask them to do anything. Okay, all he wanted to do was use their airspace to transport safely, to make safer trips for U.S. members through the air. And then when I say safer, less distance, less fuel, all right, use the air bases that we're paying rent for, all right, to stage and get ready. He's not asking NATO members to do anything. And then now what he has said, all right, then it comes to the Hormuz Strait, all right, he has said, hey, you know what? If you want to come help down here, feel free. We want you to become involved because it's you, Germany, it's you, France, it's you, UK, that need this oil. You're the ones that get so much of your oil through this route. If you want to come help and, you know, help us work stuff out, we can do that. But there's no ships down there. I found it astounding that Starmer sat there and said, hey, we're going to send a destroyer. No, we're not. Yeah, we are. No, we're not. Okay, yeah, for sure we are now. For sure we're going to send this destroyer. Oh, you know what? It's in repairs. But as soon as it gets done. But then the labor unions said, look, we only work from 9 to 5. So when our normal 9 to 5, I mean, there was no sense of urgency to get these repairs and upgrades done. Finally, it ships out, it has another problem, and then finally it gets to a Mediterranean location. So Heath McDaniel, can't lie, I do like my Dunkin' Boston cream donuts. Yeah, I love donuts. I don't remember the last time I ate one, but I love them. I love Krispy Kreme because when I moved to the mainland U.S., all right, when I moved to the U.S., I was raised from the time I was like 14 years old, all the way through undergraduate and graduate, all the way through colleges, all right down the road from Krispy Kreme, all right, not one of these little, when it was, when I was in college, the only place you could buy a Krispy Kreme donut was at the warehouse if you were in a fundraising organization, because you were buying glazed donuts, 600 dozen or 200 dozen at a time, or there was one little spot, one little place in Charlotte on Independence Boulevard. All right. It had like 4 counter seats and 4 or 5 booths. And that was the only retail outlet for Krispy Kreme. And it was a, distribution point for where it came out of. I think it was Kannapolis, where the main factory was, and they would give it. But anyways, yeah, I love them. I love them. Good morning, Bill. How are you? McLovin. That's like Long John Silver's has to be a money laundering scheme. Not only how are they still open, but have you ever wondered what the hell are you eating? All right. We have this addiction to fried food. And you go to Long John Silver's, and I guess the way it is if you mix together flour, salt, and enough salt and pepper and MSG and batter any kind of a whatever, it's good. I don't know how Long John Silver's stays in business. You're absolutely correct, McLovin. I went to Dunkin' and they were sold out of donuts at 11 a.m. Yeah, well, if all they make is a dozen donuts of one kind, sure. All right. Some Dunkin' Donuts do great. I just know I've been to some Dunkin' Donuts. I know there was a Dunkin' Donuts on my way to my office in Phoenix that because I like Dunkin' Donuts coffee. They have really good coffee. And I would stop there and the reason that I would stop there is because it was faster than Starbucks, faster than Pete's, faster than, I'm trying to remember, there's another big chain, a local chain in Phoenix. I can't remember the name of it offhand. But yeah, their drive-thru was always empty, and they were always empty. So, Chippy Whiska, good morning, Chippy. How are you? I hope you're doing well. Michael Atzos, I had a family-run 24-hour food chain that Sunday morning breakfast would pay all the bills for the week. It was busy from the Catholic Church a mile away. They ran 5 services. Wow, one of those mega churches, huh? Michael, was Jim and Tammy Faye Baker there, or Pat Robertson? The son took over the restaurant and he followed the white line with his nose and blew the restaurant up his nose. That kind of crap happens. We've seen, you look at the news, we see people. I mean, you look at like Hunter Biden, crack addict, cocaine addict, had everything. I mean, his life was set. His life could have been one of intense pleasure, normal pleasures. But here he is, the son of the president, okay? And he is a whoremonger, a drug abuser, physically abusive, and then he lies and scams. I just saw he owes millions of dollars in attorney's fees and claims now he has no money and he's not living in the U.S. Paul says, good morning, Paul. How are you? Paul says Bible prophecy should be considered and how countries who support and defend Israel from her enemies will be blessed. Bible prophecy is oftentimes overlooked when discussing the Middle East. You know what? Bible prophecy and the Quran. I mean, there's in the Middle East, Paul, you're absolutely correct. In the Middle East, there are multiple religions. And there are both fanatical and conservative sides to the same religion. And I got to tell you, and Paul, no disrespect, because I really like you. I don't follow that doctrine. Okay? If God comes to me and appears in front of me and tells me this is the way it is, great. But I'm not going to put my faith in Scripture. I just can't do it. That's probably going to kill me. Half the room is going to leave. McLovin, we had a Krispy Kreme in Daytona Beach when I was growing up, and it was just a little storefront. Yeah, there weren't many. They didn't start putting them out. I said when I was in college, I said, man, if Krispy Kreme would franchise, you could make millions of dollars. And that's what happened. People got greedy with it, though. Like, there was a guy that bought the entire Krispy Kreme franchise rights for half of Arizona. It was one guy. 3 years later, he built like 20 Krispy Kremes, 30 Krispy Kremes, I don't know how many. 3 years later, it all went bankrupt. You can have a great product, but still be crazy. He says about like my brother and his girlfriend, unfortunately, that's my deepest condolences. Drugs are just simply a horrible, horrible situation. Dutch Brothers, yes, Slick Rick, Dutch Brothers. That was the other one. My daughter preferred Dutch Brothers because all of her little friends liked Dutch Brothers. I never liked Starbucks, but because on the way to the office, sometimes I would stop and pick up bagels and donuts for the office once in a while, especially if I knew it was going to be a long, hard day for the staff. And so, Dunkin' Donuts, bagels, donuts, coffee. But yeah, Dutch Brothers was the other one. Tim says, I don't like Krispy Kreme. Way too sweet for me. Everyone forgot about the Biden family long ago, but then again, he was never running the country. Then anyways, other entities. And Bill, you know what? I agree with you. I don't think Biden ran the country. I don't think he was the first president that didn't run the country. Okay? Just like Starmer doesn't run the country in the UK. Politics is a deep, ugly thing. It really and truly is. Him and Corn Pop, Biden and Corn Pop, they probably, play checkers while trying to figure out world economies and everything else. In the Philippines, I don't want is blasted. Michael says, in the Philippines, I don't want is blasted that I'm Jewish. That is the only thing that scares me on Mindanao. Then Michael, just don't tell him. Don't tell him. I didn't know. Do you think Mindanao is anti-Jewish? I'm not saying it. I'm not arguing. I'm wondering. It's a question. My question is do you see anti-Jewish sentiment in Mindanao? Tim Desiak, I also think they're overrated. Michael Johnson opened up a Krispy Kreme in his hometown of Lansing, Michigan, and went belly up. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not familiar with it, but it doesn't surprise me. I mean, if you did it and you did it right, that's great. But if you didn't, it requires easy access in and out. It requires a fast drive-through. It requires hot now donuts. It requires a clean, great service atmosphere, and it requires easy access, and foot traffic don't hurt. That's for sure. But isn't that true of most businesses? Not a fan of Krispy Kreme, but there's one 2.5 miles away that had the automatic donut conveyor system. But within half a mile of that, Dunkin's is Rise and Shine, Dutch Brothers, Amy's Donut, and Donut Mart. Yeah, they're all over. Auto Pen ran the country, he says. Yeah, the Auto Pen was definitely moving quite along. It makes you wonder how much influence Hunter Biden has. And all of the bullshit that went along. I mean, can you imagine if the UK pulled the same fucked up stunt that Biden pulled? Can you imagine the Prime Minister of the UK issuing a pardon, a blanket wide pardon against any and all crimes committed historically in the past or during a certain period of time to a family member? Can you imagine that? I mean, not even the UK is that crazy. McLovin says, all I know is corned beef filled pandesal at Starbucks in the Philippines is really good. I've never had that. Arlene will make me corned beef once in a while with breakfast. I don't eat a lot of it. I mean, but once in a while it's a nice treat. I like corned beef. Donut Mart is the GOAT here in Albuquerque. I've never been to a donut. I've never even heard of Donut Mart. Wow. I like the Dunkin' Donuts apple fritter. Coffee good too. Yeah, it was the apple fritter. Chippy Whisker's right. I love but then they opened up a donut store in Anthem, and it was right on the way. So even though I was a single father, I had custody of my daughter. All right, my daughter lived with me, and I would drive her to school when I was in town, and all the time. And we would go right by a place called Sweetheart Donuts. They had the best apple fritters, really and truly. I've never tried a Dunkin' Donut. Yeah, I have. Yeah, they're good. They have a large Muslim population. Yeah, Michael. Yeah, but I mean, not all Muslims are going to be fanatics. Now, that is something, though, I would worry about. I would not worry about individually, but I would worry about the fanatic Muslim Islamist scenario. Its fatah, its identity is to go worldwide. It wants one world order, all under its religion. And you've got Indonesia and Malaysia, and literally, it's my understanding, it's only about a 90-mile boat ride from Indonesia to the end of the Sulu Sea, southern tip of Mindanao. Yeah, I would worry about it. They just opened Dutch Brothers near me recently. I've never heard of them before, and at first glance at their sign, I thought they were selling paint. Yeah. But you know what, Bruce? You should give them a try. All of the Dutch Brothers in Phoenix are little tiny places. They don't even have... In Phoenix, I think they had one that had inside seating. It was all like a double drive-through. I've not had an apple for... Yeah, neither have I, but man, it would be nice, wouldn't it? Jill Biden was the first female president, James. Yeah, Jill Biden was the first Biden president and only Biden president to not wear a diaper. Always wanted to franchise a donut shop or 7-Eleven in Rizal, but too scared to pull from the 401k. You know what, Bill? If you just leave your 401k reasonably invested, you're going to make a higher rate of return than a chancy investment. Why bother? Why get involved in that? Why risk it? I agree with you. D-Rad, Joe Bob. Anything beats a number 9 with extra. Nothing beats a number 9 with extra bacon from Golden Pride and a landline-sized cinnamon bun from the Frontier. So I meant. So this is that some place in Alaska, Dave? D. Webb used to live in Alaska. He lives up north of me now, but he used to live up in Alaska. I'm not worried about 90% of the Muslims in the Philippines. Most are peaceful. Yeah. Well, take a look at Iran. 90 million people. Well, only 4 million of them are members of the IRGC. They are an intelligent group of individuals, and I would love to see what would happen if they were to rise up, make a regime change, all right, lasting regime change, and see what happened. Landmine sized. Okay. Joe Paul says Donut Mart was opened by a Pakistani family and friends with. They have peanut butter and jelly donut and chocolate raspberry that will bring tears to your eyes. In 8 years, they'll have 6 locations. Wow. Okay. I have had a peanut butter and jelly donut before. I don't remember where I got it. It was, this was many, many, many years ago. Small bakery in my neighborhood, James says, sells apple fritters. Great. I love an apple fritter. I haven't had a donut that's not true. Let me rephrase. All right. I haven't done a donut run in I don't know how many years. I have had a couple of donuts, maybe 10 in the past 5 years. All right. But a good apple fritter, nah. Including replacing the Duncan that was exchanged at the Air Force Base there. Oh, wow. Okay. Obama was the first gay president. Just ask his husband, Big Mike. You know what? I don't know about that, to be honest with you. I will tell you this much. I don't think I definitely think that Michelle was a very strong, and still is, a very strong woman. Okay? I don't agree with her. I don't, just a lot of differences there. Chippy Whisker got to watch some of the Starbucks food in the fill, some of it sitting in the display for days. That's why they always heat things up. Yeah, absolutely. Chippy's right. I prefer old-fashioned chocolate donuts. I haven't, huh? The return on investment for business in the Philippines takes way too long. Keep your money where it is. And McLovin's right. I agree with him. I really do. A even moderately invested 401k, you'll be fine. All right? You'll be absolutely fine. D-Web, Frontier and Golden Pride are both located in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Huh. Well, I don't really go to Albuquerque. I used to go to Hatch, New Mexico. Ex-wife number 2 and I, about every 3, 4, 5 months, whatever, we would take a weekend trip up to Hatch, New Mexico to get Hatch green chilies. We used to be able to get them in a part of town. There was a part of town in in Phoenix called Guadalupe, predominantly Hispanic and everything. And they would have hatch chilies, but they wouldn't be fresh. But, we used to get roasted hatch chilies, bring them home, peel them, dice them up, put them in little Ziploc bags, and put them in the freezer. And then we'd have 3-4 months worth of them. Joe Pa says they are jelly filled with peanut butter icing. I love peanut butter. McLovin, forget the donut run. I'm ready for another Shake Shack. No kidding. Shake Shack would be good. That's for sure. Wow. Feel free to support who you want. Doesn't change my life or define a friendship, but let's not forget Ronald Reagan had Alzheimer's from the time he left the presidency. Yeah, you know what? Joe, I think you're correct. And I don't believe that Reagan, Biden, Trump, depending on your opinions, were all mentally accurate people during their presidencies. I simply don't. I really and truly do not. But that's what we're with. That's what we're stuck with. Michael Atos. We had an old family bakery that had the same dead fly in the display. Okay, that would be a place I would not go, Michael. Really. D-Web, you're so right about Golden Pride, but the cinnamon rolls are from another planet. Yep. I don't know, but you guys make me hungry for it. That's for sure. So anyways, should we be in the Middle East? Should we be doing what we're doing in the Middle East? How far should we take it? And how is it going to impact, is it going to continue? Should we have ground troops? Should we do a ground? And if you think there are no ground troops in Iran, think again. I'll guarantee you there are special operations guys already on the ground, tucked away, doing reconnaissance and intelligence in Iran. There's no doubt in my mind about it. I could be wrong, obviously, but should we actually invade? Is it worth putting? What would be better? Would it be better to just turn Iran into a fucking glass ashtray from the air than to put American soldiers' lives at risk on the ground? That would probably be better. Let's see how you feel about that. Hometown family bakeries are sadly a thing of the past. Yeah, I don't think the profit margins in those are that great. I really don't. But no, I want to know what you people think. Should we put boots on the ground? Should we just say, hey, you know what? We're going to do everything within our power to economically strangle Iran into submission, all right? Where the only objective we would have is to get them out of the nuclear industry, okay? Or should we just turn it into an ashtray? And, we'll give the population of Iran 30-day notice and just say, look, we're going to turn Iran into an ashtray. It's going to be a glass ashtray. Churchill will be able to dip his cigars in that thing. All right? A ranger hey, how you doing? Ernest, how are you? Believe me, there are some SF guys in the area. Yeah, I firmly believe in that. I mean, that's how we get intel. All right. You're going to have Delta. You're going to have Special Forces, Green Beret. You're going to have a lot of small groups tucked away. Not hundreds. All right. Not thousands, But you're going to have, trust me, we have them. I read we actually have an airstrip in Iran. I didn't read that. I don't know anything about that. A secret airstrip. It's entirely possible. Joe Paul says, I'm on the west side. We don't have a Golden Pride near our house, but the fried chicken and cinnamon roll would be worth a drive over the Lomas now. You guys are making me hungry. Michael says, boots on the ground at the oil export points. Okay? How does other people feel? Should we have boots on the ground? Should we be doing that? Should we put our children, our American fighting forces at risk over Iran? And is it something that we should be at risk of? Let's mold this into two pieces. The first one is no, the only thing we should be doing is whatever it takes to stop the nuclear proliferation. Okay? The second part of that would be we should force regime change. We should go in, wipe out the IRGC, and then, govern and take care of stuff. I don't know. How do you guys think? Mike's Philippine retirement used to live in Edgewood, New Mexico. And when I asked him about Blake's Lotaburger, he said he never heard of it. I find that impossible. I don't know. But Joe Paul, it's quite, I don't know. Ranger for collectors, no boots. I gotta agree. I think from my point of view, why put boots on the ground when you can economically collapse them, when you can bomb the living crap out of their infrastructure? How long are these 90 million people going to be satisfied with the fanatical Islamics when they don't have water, when they don't have electricity, when they don't have medical care? How long do you think they're going to be happy? We don't need to go into the civilian population centers. Now, there's always going to be collateral damage, all right? But is it there? Is that worth it? I don't think it's worth putting boots on the ground. I really don't. Especially for us, they don't give us anything. Okay? What we want to do is stop them from developing a ballistic missile capable of carrying a nuclear warhead to hit the people, us, that they've been chanting death to America for the past 47 years. Trump announced the U.S. military strikes had completely and totally obliterated Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities, announced in June. Yes, and I believe that because, that quote, Iran's key nuclear. That doesn't mean every enrichment facility, okay? And for those of you that don't understand nuclear enrichment, you've got uranium-235. In order to get that up to 238, all right, you have to spin that stuff down. It takes, all right, you have to spin this stuff in a special centrifuge that runs at about 10,000 RPM. In other words, this thing spins faster than any car engine you could ever do. If you'd blow your engine up. They have to be exact, precise, and balanced. And that centrifuge only holds grams of uranium to spin it down. Then when you spin it down, each cycle only enriches it about 0.5%. You're talking tens of thousands of these centrifuges. For a nuclear power plant, the typical enriched uranium that you're going to find in these pellets, all right, the byproduct and the plutonium into these pellets in the nuclear power plants, you only need like about a 2 to 3% enrichment. For medical applications, a 7 to 12% enrichment. Okay? For a couple of really specialized research reactors, you could be up to about the 60% enrichment. Anything over that, now the only application, anything over 60% enrichment, almost anything over 60% enrichment, is weapons, is to get to weapons grade. And quite honestly, weapons grade, you can be at 80%. The problem with it is creating a small enough, it's the physics of size. In other words, at 80%, you need to have about 40. I don't know, these numbers are exaggerated, but the difference would be like 40 pounds of it, whereas at 90% and above, you only need 2 pounds. All right? Because you have to remember, in and of itself, it is not explosive. You have to smash that stuff into itself to create the chain reaction, all right, the fusion of a nuclear blowout. So you have to surround it with shaped charges in order to make that happen. And they all have to go off. These things have to go off. I mean, the dynamics that, you can Google. There are 2 guys that are nuclear physicists, well known, that have YouTube channels, and they go through this kind of stuff and other nuclear stuff. You should watch some of their stuff. Joe Paul, as a former Marine, I say rather than thank the military for their service, honor, thank them by not risking. Yeah, I think, Joe, that's exactly correct. Why put a human in the line of fire when, okay, I'll just launch 5 missiles. One of them will get through. Okay? Definitely we should be in the Middle East, but for the multiple big ticket items, protect Israel, help out those trying to survive in Gaza. Humanity aid needs protection by the military. You know what, Paul? I don't disagree with you, okay? But I mean, what do you mean by help out Israel? Protect Israel. It's not up to us to protect Israel. It's up, we should help, just like it's not up to us to protect the Ukraine. We can provide assistance, but to put boots on the ground, I'm not sure. As far as Gaza and Palestine go, that's a whole nother topic. Eden Beaver. Hey, how you doing, Eden Beaver? Good to see you. Eden Beaver, no boots. See Iraq, Afghanistan, just a waste of time and effort. I agree 100%. We should have, the lives, I don't think the human cost to American lives in Afghanistan and Iraq was worth it. Was worth what we got. All right? We should have gotten far more. All right? When am I going to take, you know what? If I were the president, all right, this is stupid, but if I were the president and I was like, you know what? you're not going to do this. And they're going to say, yes, we are. We're going to kill all Americans. One of my options, I'm not saying which one I would take, but one of my options would be, you know what? Okay, I'm going to take Iran. I'm going to fuck it up completely. All right? I'm going to invade. It's going to become like Hawaii. It's going to be a distant state. All right? We're going to get a state flag. We're going to make it a state, and all that oil, that's going to be for social welfare, for social, we're going to sell that, and there'll be a Lamborghini in every garage. That's one of the options that would be there. And God be it on to anybody else that does any different. All right. Economic sanctions. Oops. Gary, attacks can only be made against military targets. Bombing the infrastructure goes against all international law. We can't lower ourselves, justify it by saying the opposition. Well, but Gary, you're correct. All right. First off, bombing the infrastructure is not against international law, and who cares? Think about it for a second, Gary. Who enforces this international law? Who enforces that shit? Who puts people in jail for that? All right? You think a nuclear bomb that has a blast radius of, say, 2 miles is not going to go after civilian targets? It doesn't matter what military base they launch that thing on. Boom. I don't want to have to fight in the international court that doesn't give a shit. I don't want to have to do that after they blow up the Washington, D.C. suburbs. Okay? I don't want us to do that. I'm sorry, Gary. If you have to put them down, you have to put them down. Period. End of story. All right? It should be, I was going to give you a terrible example. I'm sorry. I feel good with gas prices at $5. Still a real good price if you consider real inflation in 1973 oil embargo cost. If you figure the actual inflation rate, not to fake one for the government use now, yeah, it's high. But you know what, Michael? At the same time, all the gas in the U.S., 90% of that comes from U.S. drilling. It's not coming from the Gulf. All right? Number one. And number two, why are you paying in the U.S., why are you paying $40 a barrel more than you were 3 months ago? When it hasn't cost the oil companies $40. They're making money. It hasn't cost them $40 more to get that oil out of the ground than it did 3 months ago. They're making money hand over fist. I will live with the gas price paying for a better lifestyle soon. There you go. It's not that big a deal here. I really don't think so. Eaton Beaver, I believe sick grandpa enforces international law. I don't know. Sick grandpa is in himself a judge, jury, and executioner. Eaton Beaver, he is something else sometimes. That's for sure. International waters isn't supposed to be charged $2 million a ship to go through either. Screw international law in a true war. Yeah. All right. So first off, even though the 21-mile exclusion zone, all right, that international law UNCLOS defines, there's also another part of UNCLOS that defines the strait. And all of that strait is international water. Now, there's some argument as to whether Trump is breaking international law by blockading it. And I think, all he's doing is stopping Iranian ships or ships that are moving Iranian oil or suspected of Iranian oil, or ships importing military grade stuff to Iran. He's allowing ships out of Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates, I'm sorry, not Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates, Oman, Qatar, Saudi. He's allowing all of those. It's Iran that's cracking on those. So, I don't know. I just am not a big fan of using these international associations for whatever. All right. I'm not a fan of saying you got to follow this internet. They have no authority. Countries only abide by them when they want to. China will argue it's incorrect or it's correct. All right. The Iranians are arguing, they have this right, but they don't. And either way, it doesn't work. I don't have, the WHO, the United Nations, all of those people just don't. Sorry. If we put boots on the ground, we will likely have to install a military draft. Repubs will definitely lose the next presidential election. I don't think I hope we don't. I don't feel Iran. I don't think owning Iran is worth putting people, American lives, or anybody's lives other than the Iranians at risk. I really don't. I would just bomb them and economically kill them. Really. International law is similar to the carbon zero movement. The countries who should be helping the environment don't care, i.e. China, etc. Yeah, eating beavers, he's 100% correct. Or she. I don't know, could be a she. You never know nowadays. All right? But yeah, it's only the people that it benefits for only the reasons it benefits. 1, 2, 3, Sabon. If you look at the broad swath of Iranian history over the last 70 years, there's a strong argument that U.S. intervention has been a primary driver of the country's instability. Perhaps. I mean, the CIA was involved with the Shah back before the coup. I mean, if you take a look at history throughout the world, there's a strong argument that the U.S. was a primary driver of change. If you go back 150 years and you look at everything, I think 150, maybe more, I don't know. All right, there's a strong argument that the British, all right, through the what was it, East India Trading Company, were a strong driver of different countries' instabilities. Okay? I mean, sure, it's easy to pick on the big guy. It's easy to pick on somebody, but does it matter? I just had a Chinese man, former student, running a meth lab. They just had a Chinese man, Michigan State University, and it blew up. Yeah, actually, in the university, this guy's running a meth lab. So I mean, being a Chinese spy probably wasn't getting paid enough. So he's selling some crack on the side. Who knows? The 70-day part government shutdown is going to hurt us more than. Yeah, I agree with you, Heath. I agree. I'm tired of seeing the Democrats and Republicans screw around with people's lives when it comes to funding the jobs. All right? You don't like the police? Fine. But don't think, you know what, I'm going to make the police go away by saying we're not going to allow them to get paid. All right? You're screwing around with people's families, with American citizen families. All right? Um, no, I think that's bullshit. I think it's utter bullshit to hold people hostage like that. I really do. Everyone, please don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button and set the notification bell. Pablo, sorry, Slick Ricardo, I can't find the like button using my phone in this. It's okay, Pablo. It's okay. All right. I'm having fun. I hope you're having fun. I enjoy these conversations. I think we have a really good group of viewers, subscribers, people that participate. I think I can't complain at all. Quite honestly, Eden Beaver, quite honestly, these countries have been left to develop on their own and have failed miserably. They like to point fingers at West, and you know what? Yes, and yet there are other countries that have developed on their own that have developed into absolute chaos. Look at the UK. Look at England. My God, it is turned into a piece of shit. Did you? There is a movement now in England to go after. I mean, their pension plan, their old age pension plan, has some really unique perks that are nice, right? And although not the best or most lucrative in the world, certainly something to look at, right? And they're going after the old age pension plan now. The 4Ps bill is letter P, all right? Where they're, they in England, they used to be placing caps on rent, how much you could raise the rent, on how much rent could be, on how restricted trying to evict somebody would be. They're doing away with that. You can evict them. I mean, they're doing everything they can to alienate common people. Slick Rick, Pablo, it's there. If you hit the X on the top right corner, it should be there. Okay. Thank you, Rick. I hope the airport security lines TSA improve now. We'll see. I hope so too. My daughter's flying shortly. Subscribers, viewers, content creators, bloggers, YouTubers. Yeah, we're all pieces of shit. Okay? We're all nobodies. We don't know anything more. That's why I like these conversations, because I learn from you guys too. You've got to understand, I learn from you guys, all right, as well. Sometimes, I love seeing your views and your thoughts. Done, California Bear. Hey, CB, how's things going? Thanks, Ricardo. All of Western Union, Europe is a shithole. Now they're starting to deport like Trump. I don't know. I do know, like, Italy is imposing huge tourist fees and taxes. I know that Spain is doing the same. I know that things are changing. I don't know a whole lot about it, to be honest with you. The UK don't have 40 trillion in debt. No, they don't. Big deal. Is there a problem? All right. Is there an issue with that? You know, we could do a lot of different things to get rid of the 40 trillion in debt. Um, okay, so here's my thoughts. We could go to Iran, wipe it out. Okay, there's a lot of beautiful coastline. I mean, we could go to Iran, wipe it out, develop that coastline into resorts, and flip it. I mean, I'm sure somebody'd want to buy it all, really. I mean, you think about it. Flip it. Sell Iran afterwards, you know, with some guaranteed lease on oil, right? And then take that money that we make flipping it and buy, I don't know, Colombia, Ecuador, Brazil, Mexico, even. We could buy all of that and then redevelop that. And then all of a sudden, we own everything down. I mean, the wall, that big ass wall to keep people out, shit, it'd be pretty small when by the time you get down and we get to the Panama Canal, and it would be like, hey, we don't need to build a wall. Swim that, you son of a bitch. All right, we could do. I mean, yeah, and credit where credit's due. That's actually an old Ron White joke, without the racism that he threw in there. But you do see where I'm going with that. All right, I don't think we should be expending money. I mean, quite frankly, if I was Trump, and I don't have anything, thank God I'm not. Truly, thank God I'm not president. Okay, but if I was, I would say no nukes, no ballistic missiles, and 30% of your oil revenue for the next, let's be reasonable, 10% of your oil revenue for the next 50 years. That's what I would tell the Iranians it would take to end the blockade. Okay? I mean, why are we doing this shit without being compensated? Let me try and catch up here. Right on. Every thumbs up helps the algorithm. Thank you, Slick Rick. Absolutely, Pablo. Hit the like. The UK don't have 40 trillion. Yeah, went through that. Yeah, we could get rid of that easy. We could just take Iraq and Iran, flip them. All right. It wouldn't be hard to sell the son of a bitches. My God. All right. And then take a percentage of the oil revenue. I mean, because you could always flip them for a small deposit because you know they're going to get behind in the payments, and then you repossess them and do it again. Michael, did you get my email on the building project? Yeah, I did, Michael. I did. It's, again, I'm just not into that stuff. Never plan on going to Spain or Italy. Fees no problem. There you go. Eaton Beaver says, I will put on my tinfoil hat and say China has caused most of this chaos. Social media is filled with bots. Their economy is on. And you know what, Eden Beaver? I'm not sure that we could say China's caused most of the chaos, but are they? They're definitely in social media more than anybody else as far as misinformation and misdirection. There's no doubt about that. All right, and their economy is hurting desperately. Would rather pay $5 for gas. Bruce says, would rather pay $5 than to worry about a bomb being sent my way in the near future. We need to pay a short-term pain. Yeah, Bruce, look, my theory on that is real simple. I've said it before, I'll say it again. There are too many countries already that have nuclear bombs. We don't, as a civilization, the world in its entirety, do not need anybody else. We should adamantly be opposed to anybody else having nuclear weapons. Period. End of story. the whole idea about mutually assured destruction, that's outdated bullshit. I mean, during the Cold War, it was reasonable, but no. All right. You can't use a nuclear weapon without civilian collateral damage. You can't have a big war without civilian collateral damage. It's not possible. Brewmeister, good to see you, Brew. How's things going? Oh, hey, an hour and 40 minutes. I got my second thumbs down. Thank you very much. Just hope Iran doesn't start its oil wells on fire. I hope not, but they can be put out. And you can remember how all of that transpired with Iraq, and when the Iraqis came out of Kuwait and everything that they did back then. Geez. Take away tax breaks for corporations and the debt would go away. Tesla has not paid 1 penny in taxes in 19 of the last 20 years. Stop that BS and watch. Well, Gary, hold on. Tesla as a corporation has not. How many jobs has Tesla put out? How much money in steel? Now, granted, a lot of this stuff comes from overseas, but how much money have they poured into the global economy? How much do they pay in state income taxes? How many employees of theirs have, well, not many for state because a lot of them are in Texas, but otherwise, federal income tax, all right? Medicare, Social Security. Big corporations are important too. They really and truly are. And when you turn around, when it comes to individuals, all right, the top 2%, 3%, you know what? I can't remember. Someone would have to look it up and remind me in the chat, but it's something like the top 10% maybe of the income earners in the United States pay 80% of the taxes in the United States. You can't blame big corporations. You just can't. They're going to make money, but they provide a service. Big corporations like Meta, Google, all right, oil companies, they may not pay much in taxes. Tesla, they may not pay much in taxes as a corporation, but their employees input a shitload of money. Hey, Brewmeister, it's been a while. Stardust, we do not want to redevelop tacos. They're perfect the way they are. Buenos dias. Buenos dias. ¿Cómo está, Stardust? How funny. How funny. Yeah. We can allow for our sailors, mariners, military experts, assist peacekeepers, and the ECOWs to help out those who are starving or human rights violations. We have a duty to help those countries. We have a duty before anything, though, Paul, to look out for America. Before we look out for anybody else, we need to look out for ourselves. Just like in retirement, you have a duty to look out for yourself. You would not give away more, all your money so you didn't have the money. So we have to look out for ourselves and our children and the future of our children first. The USA would not be 40 trillion if NATO could stand on their own and pay for it. I would still be 40 trillion. I think we spend like 235 billion a year on NATO, something like that. I don't know. Somebody can look that up and Google it. We saved Kuwait from Iraq, but Kuwait didn't do anything. No, they didn't. They didn't. We have a base. I think we have one base in Kuwait. Kuwait's not very big anyways. But, yeah, We should be, you know what? Exxon and BP, who got thrown out of Iraq by Saddam Hussein, all right, they should have those oil wells back. But $5, $6.85 a gallon. Wow. Joe Paw, super chat. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Joe Paw. 4.9. That's in spite of the thumbs down. Well, thanks. I certainly appreciate it. California Bear, I'm 7 to 7:20 here in San Francisco. Yeah. Trump needs boots on the ground to keep Iran from dumping oil to the Persian Gulf. The storage tanks are getting full. Yeah. Well, they're not going to dump it into the ocean. All right. Well, you know what? If they dumped oil into the ocean, they'd be crazy. First off, that whole Sea of Oman, all right, that whole Sea of Iran, whatever you want to call it, however, all right, that would be an ecological disaster. And you got to remember those shorelines are other countries as well. That shit wouldn't last long. Trump needs boots on the ground. Yeah, I went through that. Thank you for the super sticker. Yeah, thank you so much, Joe Paul. I really appreciate it. Tesla, not a fan of, but it has created jobs for a lot of people, stock for a lot of people. Yeah, I have a nephew who works for Tesla in Tennessee. It's been working for them for, I don't know, like shit, seems like 10 years, but at least 7 or 8. Just imagine if we bought Mexico, Taco Bell revolt within 5 years. Yeah, but I guarantee you, man, I want to see, why can't Taco Bell do tamales? Why? Why can't, I mean, even in Phoenix, it was difficult to get good tamales. Now, on the border, in Yuma, in San Luis, in other border towns, you know, but is unhealthy. I mean, tamales are got to be one of the least healthiest things you can put in your mouth. Man, I loved them. I absolutely loved them. But you guys see where I'm going with this. You understand what I think about it. It's a big deal for me. Lionel Humphreys, thank you. $10 super chat from Lionel Humphreys. Wow. Geez, that's so unexpected from everybody. We never expect to get them, so we're excited when we get them. It's fun. It really and truly is. But so the general consensus so far is in the chat, all right? And if you're watching this after its live stream, in the comments, would we or should we have boots on the ground in Iran? Should we be doing more than a difference in nuclear? In other words, theoretically, Trump's only desire, his only goal was to stop the nuclear threat that Iran was rapidly reaching, if not had reached. Okay? So should we be going further than that? Should we be putting people at risk? I'd like to know what people think about that. San Antonio, Texas has a few good. I'm sure they do, Tim. I'm sure they do. Phoenix probably had a good place, but they were just not where we were going. That's all. Thank you, Lionel Humphreys, for the superstar. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. So much. We appreciate just can't say it enough. Haven't had Taco Bell in like a year. Too pricey for what you get now. Yeah, I can remember going to Taco Bell when I was in college, and for I could get 3 tacos and a soda. Now, they weren't the fancy, they were just the standard taco. 3 tacos and a soda for $2 and some odd cents. UK is a failed social experiment. It is, sadly enough. And the UK has hard-working people. I mean, there's no reason for them to be that way. But the immigration and everything that's happened there and what they've allowed the immigrants to do and to take over and to push their agendas, that's just bullshit. Michael says tamales are not easy to make. A lot of flavor. Yeah, it is. It really and truly is. Chicken, beef, or pork tamales. I like, to be honest with you, CB, I like the pork tamales with green chilies in it. To where it's a little bit spicy and everything. But they're impossible. They're just, God, I can't have it. San Francisco has some of the best tamales I've ever had. You make me hungry. Why leave a thumbs down? This is a good conversation. It's not your cup of tea. Leave the conversation. I think it's a great conversation. I think that, again, I go back and I say this honestly and truthfully. A lot of my subscribers, our subscribers and viewers, they have different points of view, and they're smart, they're experienced, they've traveled the world, I really enjoy this conversation. I really and truly do. I'm having a blast with it. Stopping a nuclear threat for just paying a bit more for gas seems like a bargain. Yeah, Bruce, I agree. I agree 100%. I mean, it's already proven that the IRGC, the Iranian IRGC, has a ballistic missile. Now, whether they can make it, whether it's perfected or not, but they have a ballistic missile that they can actually, it has the range to get to the southern part of England. Okay? You would think the British would be a little concerned about that shit, wouldn't you? But no. Just the soda costs you over that $2 and some odd cents. Yeah, I can't imagine. We haven't been to Taco Bell in forever. 7, 8 years at least. We haven't been to Taco Bell since we moved to the Philippines. And quite honestly, if I wanted a taco, I used to love the big taco at Jack in the Box. It was so unhealthy. I mean, it was a taco, big shell. God only knows what pretend meat it had inside it, but it was deep fried. That's I liked Jack in the Box. It had a couple of good things I liked. The question should be, are you, the American people, willing to send your sons and daughters to fight a ground war in Iraq? Our servicemen and women are patriots, not serial killers. Well, Joe, you're right. I mean, that is the question. And if they're patriots, so how do we define that? How do we define that? Are you a patriot because you stop somebody from being a mass murderer? All right? Like the Iranian IRGC from dropping a nuclear bomb, all right, on a civilian population. All right, does that make you a patriot or does that make you a serial killer? Yeah, we know you meant Iran, Joe Paul. All right, we know you meant it. I remember back in the 80s, Taco Bell had 29-cent tacos, would smash 12 at the feed port. Yeah, I can still remember McDonald's advertising a burger, fries, and a drink for under $1. And even further back as a child, dairy. Yeah, can you remember getting a corn dog or a hot dog at Dairy Queen, and then a 5-cent cone for dessert. A giant candy bar is $2.99. I won't pay it. Wow. I'd go broke on Snickers bars. Is that what you're saying, Michael? Taco hell. But I'm serious, people. When we look at all of these situations, when we look at everything that's going on, should we, does anybody think that it is acceptable to put large scale boots on the ground in Iran? Because, I mean, it's obvious. There's no doubt in our mind we have boots on the ground in Iran right now. There are special operations guys in Iran, Iraq, probably the Ukraine, all right, already. Okay, but they're not engaged in that situation. I'm talking about full out boots on the ground, door knocking, kicking stuff down, like we did in Iraq, which was absolutely crazy. And Afghanistan, crazy to have done that. Should have never done it. Taco Bell is the closest fast food to me. McDonald's, Pizza Hut, and Starbucks, just as close, 2 blocks away. There we go. Ooh, burrito tacos, yeah. Mike, are those tacos at Amigos or Tequila Reef any good? You know what? They're edible. The Tequila Reef ones are not bad. You add a little bit of hot sauce to it. They're pretty good, and for the money, they're pretty good. You know, you get a pretty good sized portion. I mean, Dickie Spas, wow, Dickie, I haven't seen you in a while. Hope you're doing well. All right, it's an all volunteer area. Yeah, right now it is. Do Filipino men get Tampa? And Heidi's live stream yesterday, she said George has Tampa. I don't believe in Tampa. I really don't. And I guess my experience with Tampa must be different. If Arlene gets mad at me, excuse me, if Arlene gets mad at me or she's upset with me, all I have to do is say, hey, honey, are you mad at me? Are you upset? Is there something bothering you? And we talk about it. This Tampa bullshit, these are men and people. All right, so if we go along and we say Heidi's accusing George of having, then let's define it as this. These are people that simply don't fucking know how to communicate. They don't know how to have a goddamn conversation. Their ability to communicate is being or their ability to communicate is being stifled. In other words, they may know how to communicate, but the other person doesn't know how to communicate or isn't on that same language level. Now, I don't know. I really don't. I did see that live stream. That live stream yesterday blew me away. Absolutely blew me away. I did see it. We stopped sending them into harm's way. By mass murderer, do you mean the yellow cake Saddam had? How many Iraqis were on those planes? How many Americans died in Iraq? Yeah, there's so many questions here. So many different ways to define it, Joe Paul. I agree. I'm 56-year-old, broken down with health issues, and take up arms if the USA was invaded. You bet. You bet. I got 60, 65-year-old buddies, all right? And quite frankly, that still live in the U.S. A couple of them, 2 of them, brothers, all right? One of them owned a shooting range. He was the only FAA certified shooting range to qualify pilots when it became after 9/11, when they became able to carry firearms. He was the first one and only one for about 3 years on the East Coast. And these guys, these two brothers, they've got an arsenal. I guarantee you, if there's ever an invasion, boom, America, anybody would be crazy to invade the United States. We have, I don't know, somebody Google that. How many guns per citizen in the United States? How many guns, all right, per citizen in the United States? You're going to find out it'd be a it would be difficult. And by the way, Saudi's operating. Saudi's operating. I'm lost, Joe Pa. I'm sorry, I don't understand. What's the cost of taco by you? I don't have a Taco Bell near me. I don't have one. Saudi's operating in Afghanistan, masterminded 9/11. No Taliban on those planes. How many patriots died fighting? They're no. You know, Joe Pa, they were Saudis. And what's funny is and it's not funny. I should rephrase that. Okay. What's strange is a couple of those guys, three of those guys actually trained right down the street, right down the road, all right, about 8, 9 miles, 10 miles, at Deer Valley Airport. That's where they trained and learned to fly. Right, I would pass it on my way to the hospital every day. I used to go to Iguana's Mexican restaurant, but I haven't gone. I've never been to Iguana's, and I want to go. I'm going to put that on our list for this month. Back in my high school days, I had gas pumped for 25 cents a gallon by Bikini Girls, and pump only went to $9.99. That's more than you could put in an orchard. I can remember paying in Charlotte, North Carolina. So I had a dirt bike before I had a driver's license. I had a dirt bike. All my friends did. We used to ride, out in the forests and stuff like that. And I can remember going up to a place called Magic Market. It was Magic Mart, I think. All right. It was a gas station, convenience store, like a 7-Eleven. Right. But it was right there where we would head off into the woods. All right. And we had like hundreds of miles of woods that we had trails through that we could ride in. And I can remember getting, I can remember paying 23 cents a gallon. But we had to pump it ourselves. 23 cents a gallon. I think it used to cost me about 70 cents, I think, to fill up I had a little, that bike. I've had a lot of bikes since then, but that particular bike was a Honda SL 100. I think it cost like 70 cents to fill it up. Eden Beaver. Yeah. Pablo, that was an epic. Yeah, it was all right, but I have to say this. Do you think that was real? Because I can't imagine any guy reacting that way. I can't imagine. Leave me alone. And then argue. Why not just get up and walk the fuck away? Why not get up, get in your car, and go to SM or to the McDonald's or get a coffee or just leave? I can't imagine that. I don't know. It's very possible it's all 100% accurate and true and realistic, but I don't know. Communication is horrible nowadays. They'd rather talk to AI. Yeah. Thanks. Bill says, I was on the USS Midway during Gulf War. Oil wells burned for days before U.S. companies could cap them up. It was a mess and health hazard. Yeah, the smoke the fumes, the oil particulate in the air. It was nasty. Bill, I don't know, man. That was some nasty ass shit. Yeah, you may be right. Nah, that channel, they'll keep going. Trust me. Still live and talk about shooting range. Bang, bang, I got Filberto's and you do. Man, Steve, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to have to put you in time out. All right? You cannot be rubbing that. I mean, you're talking to a guy that's actually on a diet. All right? And you're talking about Filberto's. Oh. So Michael Atos is 430 million guns. So if you divide that by the population of so what is, all right, so Michael, what is the population over the age of 16 in the United States, and then divide that by four? How many per person over the age of 16? Michael says 430. No, Michael's rephrased that. 500 million. Wow. We have over 2 guns per person in the USA. We're actually the largest armed force in the world. Yeah. It'd be crazy to invade the United States of America. Crazy to invade it. All right? Unless you're willing to bomb it all to hell. And what is the cost of a taco dinner by you, and does it come with beans and rice? So at Tequila Reef, I just know this because we had dinner there the other night, and somebody ordered they call it the Texas Crash and Burn, which is this huge, it's the biggest burrito they make, which is, I mean, when I say huge, it's huge. All right. There's no way I could eat that. All right. But that comes with no sides. It's covered in enchilada sauce and everything. But you can get a single chimichanga, all right, and that comes with refried beans, okay, and I can't remember, refried beans and something else, all right, and that's like 200 and some odd. I mean, it's like $5. $5. Yep, Pablo says, yeah. Steve, you're a suspect now. He's hiding in Philippines from HSI. Why else would you deny yourself from? Oh man, oh, I gotta tell you, man. I love Filberto's and Anthem. I used to love that place. Arlene used to love that place. Okay, all right. Arlene used to love it because they have this like little island, all right, of sauces. And you would think Arlene was getting enough sauce. She would get like 5 little packages of each sauce. We would go there, Filberto, sometimes to get takeout. All right. And so you get these little condiment cups. And she'd be filling up sauces out the butt. She loved it. Okay, Boomer, 23 cents a gallon. Hey, that's what it was way back then. I remember paying for gas for my dad with pocket change and still had money for a pop and a candy bar. He would fill my hands up with coins. Neat. I can remember paying 79 cents, but that was the start of my driving days. Yeah, this was before. So Eaton Beaver, that's a good point. Maybe a way to increase donations. Interesting. You know what, Eaton Beaver? And I'm not here picking a fight or any bullshit like that, but I can't see any man putting up with that shit yesterday. I just can't see it. And if Heidi were healthy, I can't see any woman putting up with that shit. Now, so if we take for granted that Heidi is actually sick, and certainly we know she's got mobility problems because of her size, then George should have just walked the fuck out. George Sidis just said, man, why would he argue and scream? I just don't get it. Because that went on, that went on for like half an hour, maybe more. Carolina's El Nortino, but I do not do Macayas. No, I don't. You know what? Years and years and years ago, back in the 90s, we used to go to the Macayas over there on Central Avenue downtown, and it was one of like only two. But I think Macayas went downhill. I really do. Villa de Luna, pretty good, but still not real. Over 16 years or older, 134 million. So that's going to be like 3 guns per person over 16 years old. Filberto's on every corner in Phoenix. No need to take laxatives. Yeah, Filberto's, Roberto's, Alberto's. Used to love it. May need to make a run for the border to SM Mall of Asia for some Taco Bell. I'd like to know if Taco Bell here is the same as Taco Bell in Thailand, and is it also the same as Taco Bell in America? Because I can tell you Taco Bell in Thailand is not the same as in America, and so I don't know. That'd be interesting. On Bantayan Island, I ate at a place called Bantayan Burrito Factory, and Aussie owns it. It's really good. Good. Great. How did the Aussie learn how to make a burrito? No offense, I'm sure. They sell a mini version of both the Texas Crash and Burn and the East LA Burrito. Yeah, they do. They do. All right. I've just seen people order that regular size Crash and Burn. Holy crap, that thing's got to weigh 3 pounds by itself. James, not sure why use age 16 years old as a factor in gun. Well, James, the reason that I did that was just simply to, even with an invasion into the United States, how many people are going to let their 12-year-old kid out there fighting? All right. I think parents would be far more accepting of a 16-year-old being part of the resistance than a 12-year-old. What shit yesterday? More Heidi and George drama. I gave up on those nut jobs a year ago. Yeah, you guys can go see their live stream from yesterday. They just got into a big blowout. All right. I did my first armed robbery at 8. Oh, come on, Michael. That's not true. Let's hope not. I've seen grown women throw themselves on the floor like a 3-year-old in the middle of Walmart. I've never seen that, Heath. I've actually never seen an adult, male or female, throw a fit and get on the floor and throw a tantrum. I've never seen that. But many countries will not allow food additives the USA have in the food, so it won't be the same in the pH. Yeah, that's true. I never thought about it. The Aussie got burritos messed up. He thinks Mexican food revolves around salsa. I don't have the heart to tell him it's refried beans. Yeah, and it can't be. It has to be real refried beans. It really does. Okay, but. So we've talked about how you guys feel about boots on the ground in Iran. We've talked about how the Middle East has had an impact on you, or if it has, and doesn't matter. We've talked about, we've touched on Starmer in the UK being an imbecile, and that how the UK is developing its own set of problems, All right. And I'll preface all of that by saying America has its problems too. Significant problems and lots of them. Absolutely lots of them. I I got to tell you, it seems like every other day I open the news and some school teacher is getting busted for an inappropriate, intimate relationship with a student, all right? A minor student. Um, we see people getting stabbed. We see uh, politicians embezzling shit. I mean, the United States is not exempt from any of this crap. The Republicans and the Democrats, they fight each other like like two lesbians fighting over a dildo. I mean, it's just really and truly. That's a bad. I apologize. Okay, but you see my point. All right. I had Taco Bell at Venice Grand Central Mall a few months ago. To me, their tacos weren't different from stateside. Okay. Either that annex was for real and it's over, or that was the best acting I've ever seen. I got it, Bill. I just don't know. I can't see any grown man putting up with that shit. I got to tell you something. If I were married and you can't, it's hard to second guess all those things, but I mean, Heidi's sitting there giving out reasons why she feels the way she feels. I mean, think about it for a second. Here it is in two defenses. Heidi said she had never once and has never once been to a family event or even been to the family compound. And she's been living here 5 years, all right, down the road from George's family, and never gets invited to a family event or family compound. Didn't go. She said never invited. Okay. If I were her, I would have kicked George to the curb a long time ago if that were the case. If you're going to go to a family event and you're not going to take me, I got a problem with that. Okay. On the other hand, George putting up with what he complained about as well. All right. Leave me alone. And the two of them continued digging into each other. I would have walked out. I would have just. So I don't know. I just don't know. None of it makes sense to me. None of it. I was pricing out cost of making taco stand, and if you can't get the ingredients needed, wanted to teach wife's family how to cook. Good luck getting good ingredients. Routinely. Kind of why I live alone on private property, enjoy my peace. There you go, Heath. Exactly. Steve MBI. You have to remember the time George had an emotional breakdown on stream when Heidi was sick for some reason, and he was literally crying. Not a strong man. I've seen them both cry. Shit happens. Right? I don't care what they do. However, what kind of people do this publicly? Yeah. I mean, at a minimum, they should have just shut the live stream down when that shit started. Okay? But that's just how I feel. Okay? Let me. You never invited us to any of your family events. I love the Addams family. Yeah, there you go. There you go, Steve. George's family probably lives in a bamboo hut. No, George's brother is actually a physician, supposedly. I don't know, but they claim he's a physician. I don't know what his wife does, if anything. I don't know who all lives there. It's none of my business, so I don't care. It's none of my business. James Gilbert, I don't have a lot, but thought my Filipino wife to shoot I don't have a lot, but thought my Filipino wife to shoot. She is better than me. I call her dead-eyed. Okay. Brewmeister, if the individual you've spoken of hasn't gone to visit the family compound, there's a reason. Well, she was never invited, never been, her husband's never taken her there, Brew. All right, and it's good to see you, by the way. I hope you're doing well. Heath, emotional damage. Yeah, that's for sure. I only watch George and Heidi for the online excitement. Uh, it is what it is. Um, you know, but on the other hand, I can sit there and say, look, I have 8,000 subscribers. They have 20 some odd thousand subscribers. So they're far better at YouTube than I am. They know more about YouTube than I do and getting subscribers, and they have a bigger channel and everything else. And so, hey, what do I know? I know nothing. I'm just an average Joe, just an average guy. I could be so wrong. And it's not up to me to judge other people by any way, shape, or means. Shouldn't matter. I just think it certainly isn't something I would have done. Does that make it something they shouldn't have done? I don't know. I hate my autocorrect. Drama equals people watching. Yeah, Heath, they get far more people in their live streams. Yeah. I mean, what have I got? 35 in the room right now, and they get 100. So I mean, you know, but I don't I like the 35 people I've got. I mean, I've got great subscribers, really good, smart people, and they interact. They interact. They have opinions. We're able to talk. We're able to agree to disagree. I think those things are always great. Um, our subscribers and viewers are great people, even for the people that give us thumbs down. Drama equals people watching. Yeah, yep. F the subscriber numbers. What are the monthly views? You can tell how someone is doing by the views. Um, I don't know I guess if I was going to put out 4 videos a week, my views would be up there better. Um, I just put stuff out when I get around to it. I mean, I took a month and a half almost off of YouTube to take care of business issues in the U.S. and first quarter issues in the U.S. And it doesn't bother me in the least a little bit. All right. Time viewing as well, but I think those metrics are only available to the channel. 38. We're waiting to cyber. How many of us, okay, Eden Beaver, how many of us have been banned from that channel? I've been banned there 4 times over the past 5 years. Okay? I've been banned 3 or 4 times. I can't remember. 3 or 4 times. All right? And it's always been over a misunderstanding. Okay? Perhaps I didn't say something politically correct or anything else. But 3 or 4 times for me. I don't know. I would think a lot of my viewers, a lot of our we share a lot of viewers. I bet Eden Beaver and I and maybe 1 or 2 others are only ones that have been banned. The live stream from the Jerry Springer studio in the Philippines, what is the deal with their channel? And what is it about? Never watched Heidi and Punching Bag. They used to do expat help. Then they got into the trolling game. Now you know what? You'd have to go to their channel and watch. You'll have to go to their channel, all right, and figure it out. Michael, I can't describe it because as soon as I describe it, I will get accused of leaving something out or putting something in, just not there to be. Didn't you used to be a mod? Yeah, no. I was never a moderator in their channel, Steve. I was a moderator and still am a moderator on Philly in the Philippines. Or last I looked, I was still a moderator. And I was a moderator at Mike's Philippine Journey. But no, never, no. They would never make me a moderator. Trust me, that would never happen. That would never happen. What's the name of the channel? It's Philippines Antics. Somebody can write that down below. Um, but it's Philippines Antics or Philippine Antics. ANTICS. All right. Then you get banned again from them for giving wrong info. You know what? It's been quite a while since I've been banned, so I don't remember why I got banned when. I mean, they're not the first channel I've been banned from, and they're certainly not the last one. I've never been banned from any channel. Every time I see someone being an ass, I bite my tongue and don't say anything. There you go. There's Steve's got it for you. That's the name of the channel, Philippine Antics. All right. If you're wondering what we're talking about, watch the live stream. You're going to have to watch her intro. Then George shows up. Then I don't know, George eats worms and fly larvae or something like that. And then they get into this big blowout argument. I will get online and make rude comments and say you sent me. Don't do that, Michael. For God's sakes. Don't do that. All right? What, you think you're like sick grandpa? Even he hasn't done that. Jim Kin, your Kin, Jim Kin Arioso. I know I have brutalized that name. I apologize. Okay? I really do. Heidi reminds me of Jabba the Hutt. Well, yeah. So be it. So be it. Has the stream been taken down? I could not find it. I don't know. I haven't looked for it. This was a live stream that they did yesterday. So if it got taken down, I don't know. I mean, it was brutal. It was a brutal live stream. It was very disappointing to see adults act that way. And I would not be surprised if they took it down, especially because things were said about George's family. And that would not surprise me that would be taken down. Taco Bell and Mega Mall is actually pretty good. Okay. Jabba be skinny compared to her. All right. We don't need to do the fat jokes. It is just what it is. Not a whole lot you can do about it. Hang on, I just got a message. Hang on a second. There we go. Okay. So, okay. So, I got to give my daughter a call here in just a little bit. But my daughter left me a message says, "Hey, I just got out from work." So, for those of you that don't know, my daughter is a full-time veterinary, doctor of veterinary science student. Okay. But in addition to that, she also works part time for the School of Veterinary Medicine um, in their animal stuff, whatever, whether it's horses, pigs, cows, canaries, cats. Um, this is a huge veterinary college. And so she works part time as available, as there's time available, kind of like fill in. And apparently she filled in for somebody this afternoon, and she had to stock because they have trucks, and these trucks go out and do veterinary calls in different stables and breeding programs and things like that. And she had to stock up 4 trucks that are on their way out tomorrow to those different places. So, but she said she's on her way home. Ian Bruce said, "Yeah, I was watching it, and then it went to private. So then they took it down, turned it private. I haven't been banned as I don't watch their channel. Didn't appreciate remarks Heidi made previously, so I stopped following them. Yeah, Arstel, she can be very abrasive. Is it possible they crossed a line on TOS for YouTube? I don't think so. I got a feeling that there was some very hurtful stuff said on both sides about family and about individuals, and then they got brutal about some other stuff. I mean, I would, if I were, if by some crazy reason I got that bad, all right, that crazy, and didn't just shut that live stream down and walked away before it turned into such a thing, I would delete it. I would unlist it. I would make it whatever. I wouldn't want people to see it. I really wouldn't. Could be that's why she's been invited to family events. She talks about his family. It's possible. I abandoned myself from their channel. Hey Scott, how you doing? Daughter left message. Just got Filberto's and thinking of you. Nah, she has no Filberto's near her. My daughter is on the East Coast now. All right. So she went to undergraduate. She went and got her undergraduate degree was in California. She had a Roberto's near her. All right. And then now she's on the East Coast, and there's no Filberto's, Roberto's, or Jollibee near her. Michael says, I just went to Philippines. Anna, is that okay? All right. Miss Ballbreaker and George is a peewee. Well, whatever it is, I'm not gonna get into that. Eden Beaver, Mike, I would like to argue with my girlfriend. Could you have us as guests on your live stream? I don't know, Eden Beaver. I'd prefer not to do that, to be honest with you. I'd prefer not to get into that drama. But, I mean, does she have like a lazy eye? I mean, something that'll make it dynamic, or does she drool? Or do you have like a lazy? I mean, what would you argue with her about that would make it interesting enough for people to see? I'm kidding. So, eating lobster rolls. No, we're not eating lobster rolls, that's for sure. I went to UGA and there was an authentic University of Georgia Athens. UGA, University of Georgia Athens, Albany. There was an authentic Mexican restaurant near me. Not a single Mexican in the building, just a bunch of rednecks. Georgia can be like that. Georgia can be like that. East Coast, okay. Del Webb. How you doing, D Webb? How you doing, Dave? I've been banned ever since Kuya John called her out on the wall. Yeah, Yeah, her and Kuya John, man, they had it out. They certainly did. Uh, Steve, MBA. Yeah, Athens. Yeah. You know, I had I had a cousin that I had never met in my entire life, um, who lived in Athens, Georgia. And we went to visit. He was related on my father's side. We went to visit, and this guy was a full time undergraduate degree, 6 year program. Okay. I'll never remember, forget, I was like 16 years old. He's like 19. And when I say 6 year, I mean, this guy's like passing 2 classes a semester. We go to his room, and I was amazed. He had this huge, I mean, monster, I mean, wall to wall to wall, floor to ceiling, uh, vinyl record collection, which was not atypical back, you know, in the 70s. All right. But his room reeked of weed. And he just said, that's all I do, man. I get high, I go to class. If I pass, I pass. If I don't, I don't. That's the way it is here at school. Everybody's like that here at school. I'm not far from Athens, Tennessee. There you go. All right. Oh, man. Okay, so we have been on. We started this at what, 6, 7, 8, 2.5 hours. Wow. What is Cornell for the win? Finger Lakes are of New York is beautiful. Snow can be brutal. Yeah, Cornell would be beautiful. It would be. Whatever happened to Kuya John? He's funny. I like to stir. He's like, I don't know whatever happened to him. Um, it's my understanding he just went back to the States. I don't know. I don't know. Took me 20 years to go from GED to MBA, junior high dropout to 2 master's degrees, MA in history and an MBA. But you got there. You got there, Steve. And isn't that great? It's not how long it takes. All right. It's not like you got you've got an MBA, a master's in business administration, all right, or a master's in business accountancy, one or the other. And quite frankly, shit, I wouldn't worry about it. A D-Web 6 year undergrad degree, aren't they called doctors? Nah. So to be a doctor, you're 4 years of high. It's actually changed a little bit. 4 years of college, get an undergraduate degree, typically 4 years of college. Then you would do 1 year of internship. Okay. Then you would do a residency, and that residency program. So you would be an MD after you finish your internship. You would take your boards, be an MD. Then you would get 4 years of residency. I'm sorry, I got that all backwards. 4 years of high school, 4 years of medical school. All right. Then a year of internship, then residency. And then after that, you would do fellowships. So, I mean, you could be in school into your 30s without blinking an eye. Say what you will about crack and cocaine, but nobody ever robbed a pharmacy with a bomb. And that should count for somebody. Yeah, okay, yeah, all right, yeah, you're 100%, Joe Paul. You're correct. But I was working going to school at the same time. Yeah, see, that's what I mean, Steve. Regarding going back to the basis, regarding bringing back the basis to the PI, there is good reason to do so. The PI is closest place for Taiwan to evacuate. I don't believe the glory days of days gone by return. Small bases is all. Paul, I believe that we should have bases in the Philippines, not the way they're restricted right now, But if the Philippines wants us to protect them, assist in protecting them, and help them, we should have bases here. Because there's no way, just like Taiwan cannot defend itself long term against the Chinese, the Philippines couldn't even come close. It would boil down to guerrilla warfare, of which the Chinese wouldn't give a shit. 6-year undergrad degree is called a teacher. Now, this guy was just getting high and lazy. BS, you got to know bullshit, then MS, learn more shit, then PhD, piled higher and deeper. There you go. There you go. All right. So, with all of those things being the way they are, should we be in NATO? Should we pull out of NATO? Should we be should we shut down some of our NATO bases like in Italy and in Spain? Should we, or the UK or Germany? All right, because Trump's already talking about drawing down. You know what? I think I'm going to save that for a different live stream. I think that time, because we've been on for what, 2 hours and 40 minutes. You guys, have really hung in there, and I really appreciate it. So I tell you what, we are going to call it quits here. We're going to say, hey, we had a great conversation with everybody. We had a great time. Great input, great comments, great discussion. I like this format. I really and truly do like the format. Tell me what you guys think of the format. All right? And finally, we hope you have a safe, great day. Thanks.